So that's a nice way to start our day, I believe. We're finishing up our month-long conversation about facing the fear, about moving into faith. And today we're talking about faith in action. And so, throughout this month, we've been kind of setting it up and talking about, what we have faith in our teachings as far as the truth of who we are, the spiritual practices that we do, the being in community. We've talked about when we have doubt and shared powerful demonstrations of when we come together in affirmative prayer in our community. And last week we talked about how to face fear and how to move through it in a healthy way. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about faith in action. And it can feel challenging in these days that we're in, all the things that are swirling around us, to know what it is that's ours to do, or how do we hold on to that faith. And I'm especially aware of that challenges that we're having around racial justice. And I just think that we hold in our hearts right now the love and support and safety for the family and loved ones of Breonna Taylor, and to the Black community and for all of us for experiencing the racialized drama that has been brought up to the surface, I think, for us to move through and to heal. And so we just hold that in our heart as we go through our time today. So I want to talk about, what is a faith tradition? Because we're talking about faith here. And so what does it mean to have a faith tradition? And I think, many of us, especially in the Western world, especially if you're in the United States, the predominant faith tradition um, uh, has been based a lot on fear. There's the fear of a vengeful and judgmental God. There's the fear of our sinful nature, that we're inherently bad, we're born in sin, that's the original state of who we are. And there can be the fear of evil, that there's this completely separate force that is trying to thwart us at every turn. It's trying to turn us and to spoil our lives and to take us into the dark side. And so when you think about that, that's a heck of a lot of fear, right? That some of us have, and there's still people very much practicing these ideas. And so, Matthew Fox, in his morning meditation this morning, I thought it was so perfect. He said that when religion constructs ideology of sin and salvation in preference to stories of blessing and goodness, empowerment, creativity, justice, and joy, fear abounds. Fear abounds when that is the focus, when the sin and what you need to do to be saved is the focus. Then there's a lot of fear. Ernest Holmes talks about fear, and he says, we all know what fear can do, how it can shrivel up hope and dampen the ardor of living, and how finally it can close up the avenues of self-expression. When carried to an extreme, it leaves one a wreck, physically and mentally. And we have observed what faith can do. We have seen people so filled with fear that nothing in life seems worthwhile to them. And we have seen them learn to have faith in life and have watched the transformation that has taken place in their lives. And I know I've seen that transformation. I've seen it in my classes and on Sunday mornings when someone comes in and they've had this idea of themselves, and then we give them this new message of faith. It's a liberating message that our teaching gives us, because it's not a God that's separate, that's a separate, judgmental, vengeful force. We know God or the divine or the spirit, just like in that meditation, that it's a life force that moves through all of us, that it's literally energetic love. It's literally love personified. And so this is this new way of looking at the divine, that our faith is a faith of the divine, the presence of God in this energy that moves through all things. And so if that is true, we're not born in sin. We're not born flawed. but in fact, we're born in incredible blessing. The very expression of this love force comes forth through us, as us, is us. And that's a very different way to begin our life, to know of ourselves as this powerful, beautiful, loving presence. And then we know that there is no separate power warring against us. I think that in our faith, the one of the thing that can help us not live in fear is that very understanding that there's only one, that there's only one presence, one power. We say it, in all our prayers. We say it, in all that we do. That there's a power, a presence in the universe for good, and we can use it. That there's this power and presence, and it's only one. And so this is what sets us up to be able to speak from and be a place of good with regard to our faith. Ernest Holmes always talked about having the faith of God, not in God. And that might seem like a little thing, but it's a very powerful thing. That when we have a faith in God, when we have a faith in the divine, we think that that's something outside of us that's going to fix us or save us or protect us, but of course we have to do what that divine force thinks we need to do in order to get that protection. But it's still a faith in something outside of ourselves. But when we have a faith of God, we realize that we are that expression, that we are the ones that bring forth that truth, that faith. And so this is the only way that we can know this, is by having the faith in our own expression of God, that expression of God. And again, that can be so hard sometimes, with that, especially when things are going on around us. I mean, Ernest Holmes talked about the idea that to abandon the truth in times of struggle is to never have known the truth. And that doesn't mean that we don't have questions or doubts, or we don't have human concerns or grief or sadness. But through it all, it means that even in those moments of challenge, of grief and sadness, that we can still reach and find the truth of our very being, the unhurt, the unharmed, the always perfect presence within us. And what's so powerful about that is that if we can't do it, we know we have others that can see it for us. That we can go to practitioners or to each other and allow that truth to be mirrored back to us. It's really easy to know that truth when things are going well in our lives, but it's harder when these challenges arise. But that's how the faith in our teaching gets exercised. That's how we move through life. I mean, Emerson said that it's easy in the world to live after the world's opinions. If you're in the world, it's easy to live in those opinions. It's easy in solitude to live after our own. But the great man, the great person, is one who in the midst of the crowd keeps with perfect sweetness the independence of solitude. In other words, this is the call for us to take that centered divine knowingness within us and move out into the world. Thomas Hubel calls it the marketplace, going off of the mountain into the marketplace and bringing that divine energy and that truth of who we are into the world, into action. This is our faith in action. And the faith that we have is in this divine presence with us that shows up as this loving expression. So we use our individual faith in action when we know that we individually are a divine expression of the one, and that it's the faith of God moving through us that becomes that instrument into the world. I love Teresa of Avila's sharing that she wrote, where she said, the divine has no body now on earth but yours, no hands but yours, no feet but yours. Yours are the eyes through which to look out divine's compassion to the world. Yours are the feet with which the divine is to go about doing good. Yours are the hands with which the divine is the blessing. All blessing now, all beings now. The divine is to bless all beings now through us, through our hands, through our feet, through our actions. And that's a powerful thing for us as we look at what is ours to do in the world, how we show up, where we show our love, where we express ourselves. And what's so powerful about this faith that we know that we're connected to everyone is that we then can use our individual faith to combine with the collective faith to be in action. Matthew Fox reminds us in this idea about uh, this collective energy. He reminds us that um, an overemphasis on sin and redemption can breed loneliness. Can breed loneliness. That when we're so fearful and disconnected and feel like we're separate and we're separate from the divine and we're separate from each other, that creates loneliness. And Thomas Aquinas says that fear is so powerful an emotion that it renders compassion impossible. When you think about that for a moment, when we are individual separate self and we're trying to take care of ourselves and we feel like we have to do what we need to do to survive, there's no place for us to feel that love and that compassion and that connection with others. And that's what creates the sense of loneliness. That's why our collective faith is so important. That's why our sangha, our community, one of the refuges that we've talked about each week is this idea of us coming together. That there's so much power and wisdom and support and love in this collective faith, in us knowing the divine truth, knowing the power of love, and that we're in this collective faith. Then it compels us, it expands and grows in order to take these individual acts that we do to come together as one. And there's lots of ways that this happens, just the collective power of our consciousness. I love the work of Joe Dispenza, and he talks about the power of us coming together and getting into heart coherency. He has, I've been to his events where there's, 750,000 people in the room, and that there's this connection with this magnetic field of love, and that everyone kind of synchronizes and becomes this collective social coherence. And when these frequencies are all organized and synchronized, if the group is in this heart coherence, then and they send out this intention, which we've done, each week, is it creates effect. Joe Dispenza talks about this. He said one time he said that we studied this at our events by placing 50 people wearing heart rate monitors in the front row of our workshops, and asked the rest of the audience to send those people on the frequency of love thoughts like, let their bodies be healed, may their lives be enriched, allow their dreams to come true, open the door to the mystical. He said, and what we found was that all of the people's autonomic nervous systems who were receiving those thoughts on the frequency of love were influenced. So how do we know? Because all their hearts went into a high degree of coherence at the exact same time, the exact same day, in the exact same meditation. We can connect that coherence. And the powerful thing about that is that we don't have to be together in physical form. Since we're all one, there's no boundaries. And this is what we do so powerfully and beautifully when we come together in heart-centered meditations, in our connections, in our prayers, in our times together. That's what we engage in on Sunday mornings when we sit together and call forth those around us, and we ripple out into our state, into our country, into our planet. And this is one of the ways that we become spiritually engaged. We practice this social engagement and the social action through our very thoughts, through our very energetic expression. And when we do that, then that brings us forth to a place of resilience, that then we know what it is ours to do to act out in the world. It knows where we need to go, how we can help, how we can support it. It allows us to feel like there's power in our collective action out in the world through our voting, through where we give our money, through where we give our time and our energy. This is the power of collective faith. Terry Patton, in his book, The New Republic of the Heart, said, When we emerge from the isolating trance of our fragmented subcultures and begin to act with others with the understanding that we really are all in this together, something important happens. We enter together into a profound shared experience. We enter into a new consciousness and creativity that are not available to lone individuals. That's such a powerful thing for us to remember, that together we are smarter. Together we have ways to come forward that aren't available to us when we are a lone individual. Terry Patton says, no one, regardless of their enlightenment, can be what many of us can be when we are awake together, united in consciousness, vision, fellowship, care, and purpose. Sometimes I am so challenged with what is going on in our world today, and sometimes I can feel helpless. And so it's when I can stop and reconnect and realize that I'm not just one individual, but there's this collective energy of all of us. There's nothing that we can't do when we have the faith of God, when we have the faith of the knowingness that there's this presence and power and that we're a part of it, and there's no force that's pushing against us. The only thing that is pushing against us is the idea of separation, the illusion of separation. But we can be this God presence in the world, and each one of us is powerful. Each one of us coming together can be a powerful expression for good in the world. There's a story by Joseph Jaworski called The Weight of the Snowflake. I want to read it to you. He says, tell me the weight of a snowflake, said the robin to the dove. Why, it weighs nothing at all, replied the dove. In that case, the robin went on, I must tell you a marvelous story. I was sitting on a branch on a fir tree, close to its trunk, the robin began, when snow began to fall. Not heavily, not in a raging blizzard. No, just like a dream without any violence. Since I did not have anything better to do, I counted the snowflakes settling on the needles and twigs of my branch. I reached the number of 3,741,952. And then, when the 3,741,953rd snowflake dropped onto the branch, weighing nothing, as you say, the branch suddenly broke off. With that, the robin flew away. The dove thought about the story and said to herself, I sometimes think that all my efforts and the little I can do make no difference. We might think they are nothing at all, but if we put all our efforts together, great things are possible. So it's in this time that we must remember that we're each that. And I love the story of the snowflake because we're all individual expressions. We know there's no snowflakes the same. And so even in our own individual expression, individualized expression of that one, that collective power of us coming together is what it is that we need to have faith in. This is what it is that we need to have faith in this moment, and continue to do our individual work on our spiritual practice, remembering the wholeness and the beauty of who we are, practicing that sense of self-love and resonance that brings us back into the world in a powerful way that allows us to connect with each other, to be in a place of collective faith, of heart resonance as we do our work in the world, and then bring ourselves together in action. Faith in action is all of this together. So let's practice this now, just in our time of prayer, as we do every week, bringing our heart-centered resonance into place. And so, again, just close your eyes and take a deep breath in. And remember that truth that we know to be that there's only one power, one presence, the allness of life everywhere available. Call forth those qualities that you choose to bring into your experience, the qualities of love and faith and wholeness, health, wellness, beauty, power, abundance, All of these qualities are readily available to us in that divine expression because we are connected to it. We are not separate from it. And so I know that as I claim those truths of the divine in and around and through me, that as me, I show up as love and peace and wholeness, of health and abundance, well being, compassion, support. And as I know this for myself, I claim the same truth for each person within our service today, whether watching online or within our virtual community room or watching later on. I just connect with that divine truth of who you are, this expression of one. And I know that in this moment we can claim that truth and claim how it is that we want to show up and be in the world, a place of separation, of anger, of fear, of disconnection, or one of love, of connection, of oneness, of faith. So it's from this place that I claim this truth for each of us. And as we sit in this moment of this individualized expression of who we are, let us just expand that understanding, that awareness. And so in this moment, it's like that pebble being dropped into the still lake that resonates out, and this pebble that we drop into this unified field, this from this heart coherent place that we are in this moment, drop that knowingness of love and feel it radiate out from your very being into the room where you sit, in the house where you are, the space where you are. Let that ripple to every occupant, every life form, the house itself, and then ripple that out into your neighborhood, to your community, knowing that there are people who have different ideas, different beliefs, different desires, but just surround them with this resonating sense of love as it ripples out throughout your neighborhood. And then just widen that lens as we do, just move up your awareness, and as you look down on your neighborhood, see that resonant love radiating out through your town or your city or your county and through the state. Let us allow that resonant energy to envelop our country's capital, a place where the laws are made, where the decisions are being made, especially with the decisions around the Supreme Court and our elections, knowing that this love guides and directs those who are making these decisions for the highest and best for all of us. Let us ripple out to our country, the United States, and beyond our borders, to our neighboring countries, past the ocean's edge, seeing and feeling that energy move all through around our globe, just lighting up our beautiful planet with love. And this moment, in your own way, send that extra love to the places where there's challenge right now. I know the people in California and Oregon and Washington are still dealing with the effects of the fires. People are dealing with the effects of tropical storms. And now in this moment, this deep, deep love, as we leave that energetic resonance out in the world, breathe back your awareness and your presence right back into your physical space, and breathe down through your body into your feet, and know that there is this place of gratitude that we can do this powerful work together, to know the truth, to have the faith of God as God. And so it's with gratitude that I speak this word, that I release it into that spiritual law that is always working for the good. And so it's with joy and ease that I let go, I let God. Let us all just know this together as we relax into this truth and simply say, and so it is.